Hi everyone, I'm Bill Fletcher, VP of Product Management here at eSHARE. Joining me today is Courtney Lelinho, VP of Technology at Bain Company. Welcome to our first interview in our Impact Leaders Hub series, where we discuss trends and ideas shaping the future of the digital workplace. Today, Courtney and I will be discussing ways in which AI technologies can be accelerated and to explore practical insights for leaders who are navigating this critical shift. So let's dive in. Hello, Courtney. Thank you for contributing to our series.
Hey, Bill. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
To begin, Courtney, I'm very eager to understand your journey and how AI has found its way into your thinking.
Sure, absolutely. So if I think about my own journey in technology, I started on the help desk, have had a variety of different kind of product and program roles in IT, have led different product and engineering teams, which has sort of led me to where I am now, which is VP of Digital Workplace Technology at a management consulting firm. It's interesting to think through the sort of evolution of the digital workplace over the last even 20 years. And I sort of think of it in three buckets. We've got kind of phase one, which is you can think of as like the traditional workplace, right? And I think we probably all remember the days of, you had a few productivity tools, life was fairly simple, collaboration was mostly live, maybe you got an email or a voicemail, but it was in person, maybe an audio conference. Technology didn't change that fast. And the role of IT was very much service provider. We were sort of the people behind the curtains and just kind of enabling the business behind the scenes. That, I think, had a marked change when we got to sort of the cloud era of now you've got SaaS tools, cloud technologies, technology starts to change very quickly. You've got this proliferation of collaboration tools that people can easily get their hands on and use, and so lots of shadow IT. But it was a change in terms of productivity, and so I think technology groups sort of went from, all right, we're this back office sort of service provider to we are, strategic partners with the business and helping them be more productive. 2020 hits and we hit sort of the age of AI. And while AI has been around for decades, I think we all probably remember, the announcement of ChatGPT, and all of a sudden everyone is using it in their personal lives so fast. And that has been an absolute step change in terms of, the digital workplace and the potential for these tools to really create a competitive advantage for the business. And so I think for the first time ever, technology groups can now be actual innovators for the company and really helping to sort of enable their strategic ambitions. So it's fun to see the evolution, and it's a very exciting time to be in tech.
Yeah. Well, clearly you're very excited.
Yes.
What excites you most about the role of AI in transforming the digital workplace?
I would say we have a seat at the table, and I say we as technology leaders. AI is on every CIO's and CEO's agenda, and in terms of part and baked into their strategy. And so for companies that are embracing AI, they need a sound technology partner to come up with what is our technology and our company strategy. And so we as technology leaders have a super exciting challenge to not just help businesses really harness the power of AI, but to do that in a way that is safe and responsible. So it's a very exciting time. Technology is very relevant, and it's exciting to be in that field.
Yeah. It strikes me that there's lots of options out there. What are the tools and technologies that excite you most?
There's a lot. There's a lot to navigate right now. More and more things hitting the market. I think over the last couple of years we've seen certainly ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Zoom AI Companion, Claude, Google Gemini, Perplexity. I mean, there's so many different AI tools, and they all have their sort of unique value proposition. I think where companies have already invested is very much key. So, for companies that have already invested heavily in Microsoft Copilot is a very, very compelling offering. I think it's both the potential of you having this sort of embedded AI assistant across your productivity suite where you already spend your day. And in addition to that, Microsoft is sort of sitting on this treasure trove of data that is relevant. It's my entire footprint, and that this AI assistant can now leverage to make me better at what I do. So there's no shortage of technologies. Every vendor's coming out with their own flavor, but for firms that have already invested in Microsoft, Copilot is a very interesting one.
Yeah. When it comes to Microsoft, what benefits and initiatives do you see being of most focus for organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure whatever I say right now will be outdated in 3 to 6 months, but I think right now there's sort of 2 potential big areas of benefit. One is from the personal productivity angle. So again, sort of building on what I previously said, I'm in the productivity suite where I spend all of my time, but I now have this AI assistant that can help me draft an email in my own voice, help me analyze a data set to highlight insights, help me build a slide deck and narrative there, help me prep for a meeting, summarize my meeting. So there's a huge sort of personal productivity lens. I also think there's a lot happening around this idea of Copilot agents and the ability to really transform business processes and make those more efficient through an agentic form. So Microsoft is continuing to invest. So I'm sure that value proposition will continue to shift over time. But that's sort of what I see today.
Yeah. Most of these opportunities tend to be coupled with great challenges. What do you see the challenges around Copilot?
Yeah, it's interesting. And as I talk to sort of my counterparts and other technology leaders, I would say first and foremost, one of the bigger challenges is just user adoption. I think we have thought of AI as this sort of magical thing that you drop in someone's lap and they instantly are going to know, it's instantly going to give them 5 hours a day back. And that really isn't the case. I think, the first time you get a tool like Copilot, there's a novelty and an experimentation that happens, but there's then sort of a decline after that, because what actually needs to happen is you need to change how you work. And that is hard. Behavior change is very hard. And so I think, companies that just sort of drop Copilot in your lap and expect that all of a sudden they're going to see the benefit of that, it's not the case. There needs to be a lot of thought given to, well, what are the use cases and how do we translate for people? Okay, you did things this way. Now here is how you can do things with something like Copilot. So I would say, user adoption, first and foremost, is a very big challenge in actually capturing that benefit. Secondly, I would say sort of this big holistic challenge around data security, data governance, compliance. Turning on Copilot means turning on and shining a light on a lot of data that may have not been permissioned and provisioned properly, and so you've got people that have access to things they definitely shouldn't. Maybe you have PII there, and it just was never surfaced before, and now AI is surfacing this. So there's certainly a challenge around data and data security. There's a governance challenge. You've got a lot of parties that want a seat at the table in terms of how do we do this successfully, legal, risk, compliance, et cetera. So how do you sort of navigate and create the right processes around how to leverage AI? And then compliance, different geographies can or can't use it. Maybe there's some industry regulations. So there's a sort of whole bucket around data governance to navigate. The third area I would say is cost. None of these technologies are cheap, and it is challenging to figure out what is our ROI, right? I can give you a tool that saves you an hour a day, but what are you doing with that hour that translates to business value, and how do we quantify that? That's also a challenge I see people facing.
Yeah, I often hear folks talk in terms of the benefit from a return on employee standpoint. Is that coupled with ROI or oftentimes considered independent?
I think it really depends on the priorities of the firm. I think there's absolutely a lot to be said for making time for improved well-being, and if hopefully your firm values that, and that is then that is a value you can capture. But if you're looking for hard dollar values, I think that's where it gets maybe a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. So back to the data governance challenge.
Yep.
Are there some specific steps or counsel that you would impart to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a few things, just thinking back to my own journey with turning on Copilot, so to speak. I think first and foremost, there needs to be an exercise of sort of assessing your current state. What's the state of our house? And having an audit of, what data do we have? Where do we have potentially oversharing happening? People have access to things they shouldn't. Maybe you have PII or other sensitive data exposed. So really performing that sort of initial due diligence to say where do we have risk from a data point of view. I would say beyond that, making sure you have the right technical controls in place, whether it be DLP, making sure you've got least privileged access in terms of data, MFA. I mean, all of the sort of security protocols you need to put in place around data and data access. After that, I would say setting up the appropriate levels of governance, which I sort of alluded to before. But in order for companies to implement AI effectively and safely, you do need a lot of voices at the table. And so ensuring you set up the right forums where risk, privacy, legal, compliance, IT security can all sort of weigh in to say, hey, how do we do this safely and right in a way that we get value, but we don't put the business at jeopardy? And then the last thing I would say, which is often overlooked, really training people around what does it look to use, what does it look like to use AI tools safely. This is a new thing for all of us. And so, really training people on what use cases is it okay to use it for? Where should you avoid it? What data types should you be putting into this or not? So there's certainly a whole area around user education that needs to happen as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned data oversharing, and certainly there's a role for users to play in managing this. And there are tools and technologies, some available from eSHARE, like eSHARE Govern, that are designed for this. How do you see these tools being used?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think you're right. Data oversharing creates problems that are further exacerbated with AI tools like Copilot. Where that is most commonly seen is if I want to share a document with you, the easiest way from a digital workplace perspective, if I want to remove friction from that entire workflow, I'm going to send you a link that is anyone in my company can access this because I know you'll be able to access it, anyone you forward to will be able to access it, and they're not going to have to go through the arduous process of click, I can't access, request access, Courtney needs to grant me, and then 3 days later I get what I need. So from a digital workplace perspective, I say great, send your company links and be productive. You ask a security professional about that and they're not so happy, right? Because you now have all of this data that people have access to that they don't need access to and creates a lot of data security risks. So there's an interesting kind of needle to thread here. And I think the critical question is, how do you make it really easy for people to do the right thing in the flow of their work? So how do we keep friction low, but also make us secure? And your reference of eShare Govern is a good one. As we think about a company like eShare, I think they very much value, how do we solve that hard problem of not just saying no to things, right? Not just building walls, because people go around walls. How do we give people guardrails in which they can operate, but it doesn't stop their flow of work? They can still, move forward without friction. So a good example of that scenario that I just mentioned, right? If I go to send you a link and we have eShare Govern deployed, I'm going to send you the company link like I always do because that is my workflow. But behind the scenes, exactly, that is my muscle memory. Behind the scenes, eShare Govern is saying that's not the best way. Let's change this so that just Bill has access. Great. I don't know the difference. You get my email. You click on the link. You can access it. Let's say you want to then share that with your team. You send it to 5 people. Again, you don't need to think about that. You can send that along. eShare is ensuring that only those people have access to it, and it's not open to the entire company. So you've reduced the end user friction, but you've also made the company more secure. So I think, tools and companies that are thinking about solving these problems, not just from a security lens or not just a digital workplace lens, but really putting both perspectives together are compelling.
It sounds like you found a very happy place where not only the needs of digital workplace are being met, but the needs of security are as well.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, a lot of times we think about security and digital workplace as being sort of diametrically opposed to each other.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is there is common ground. And I think AI is a great example of where you can find that common ground. So, AI is only as good as the data it has. And if sort of we have this pool of data and I have access to all of this stuff that I don't need, that AI tool is going to be way less productive for me. Versus if I only have access to the things that are relevant to me, that AI tool can do a lot more for me because it's not having to sort through all of the garbage. So that's an example of where, security's needs in terms of paring down data access and my needs in terms of a productive AI assistant are absolutely aligned.
Yeah. Well, this has all been very insightful. If you had, one thought, one piece of guidance to leave our audience with as to a step that they could take that meaningfully impacts the ability of their organizations to obtain the benefit of AI, what would that be? Just one.
No, I have two.
Okay, two.
You're going to get two. So I would say, first and foremost, invest in user adoption. Invest in understanding what are the use cases that would benefit most from AI. Help people do that translation of, translating the sort of newer ways of working, and build the right scaffolding around that. So, establish beta communities where things can be tested, establish champion groups throughout your company so that they are also innovating on, how AI can be applied. Make sure you have the right sponsorship spine starting at the top, working your way down of people who can reinforce the importance of thinking through the benefit of AI and how to apply it, training, et cetera. So I don't think that the technology is going to solve the problem. You really need to invest in that adoption if you truly want to see the transformation. Second part of that is embed security early. And as you think about any AI tool, whether it be Copilot or others, start with your security counterparts thinking about how do we do this safely? How do we start off on the right foot, make sure our house is clean, make sure our data is appropriately provisioned, and then build from there. You don't want to end up on the front of the Wall Street Journal for the wrong reasons. So really put the work in ahead of time, start early with security, and that enables you to really harness the value of it in the long term.
Well, I'm sure the security practitioners in our audience will very much appreciate you
Do what I can.
closing on such a strong security note.
Yep, absolutely.
I want to thank you for your contributions to our series, and thank you for your time this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Great
Courtney.
conversation.